Good morning. Today is Saturday. It is, I'm just going to say the second week in July because I haven't looked. It is, I don't know. Anyway, I should have looked at my phone first. The fact of the matter is I'm local today, partially due to my knee situation. It has healed significantly, but still sufficiently stiff. I'm going to keep things under relative control, and I'm also wanting to follow up, kind of do a surprise inspection on the infrasound situation that was going on in this area during the winter. So I'm going to do some multitasking in that regard. So far, the temperature is not wickedly hot. It's Connecticut, so it's not Vermont, so you're in the upper 70s, bordering on 80. The bugs are after DEET, mind you. Not horrible, but they're here. Don't kid yourself. And we're going to get going, see what we can find. Kind of have a mixed bag of some things on my mind, some Bigfoot related, some not, and we'll get going, see what we find. Probably going to have to go slow and steady again, and we'll see where we are. Okay, we're back. We are hobbling through the fern-infested woods of Connecticut, kind of going through this stuff. And I'm doing okay as far as tension on the knee goes. It's just kind of like slow going. I have to be a little bit more methodical and pay attention to the ground so I don't do anything unexpected. I had an itch to go to Vermont. I possibly could have gotten away with it, but the places I wanted to go, had you had a mishap, you have no signal and you're in the middle of nowhere, you're in a spot. So if you end up in a problem like that, you made that problem. The way you avoid that problem is to do exactly that, avoid the problem. So we're here instead. This is where, when I heard the infrasound, I was listening and it was coming from that direction over there. The terrain now, of course, looks completely different because of seasonal differences. As a complete aside from that, I have fished here before, and as much as it looks like a lovely place to fish, possibly, I don't think they stock this. It's a feeder stream for another place where people fish and they catch the odd trout, but all I did here last year was bother the frogs. If you're fishing for frogs, you're good, but if not, well, that's about all you're going to find, based on my experience anyway. So in my first little rant is going to be something in the news that's kind of political. I don't normally go the political route, but this is kind of something that annoys me because I've seen it in the past, and it's just a freaking example of corrupt law enforcement. So the governor of Florida specifically has targeted Connecticut, Rhode Island, Delaware, Hawaii, and Vermont as places where I'm going to go with the word non-real ID related driver's license is no longer kosher. If you're driving through there and you get pulled over, they'll cite you for having an illegitimate driver's license, which is complete bullshit because all that is a money grab because, again, 5 different states, and the reason I call it a money grab is simply this. With the exception potentially of Delaware, which is the last I knew, fairly blue state where they're targeting on political differences, you have states that are on the other end of the East Coast or all the way out on the West Coast, and they're so far away that there's no realistic way you're going to see anyone fight this in court. They're going to pay the fine and they're guaranteed to get the revenue. It's a money grab. You also have the blue state thing too. All of these states are fairly reasonably blue state. I can't speak for Hawaii. But Vermont, it's funny to me that DeSantis is saying that this is about illegal. I mean, when you say illegals, say what you mean. You're definitely afraid of Mexicans. Vermont, on the other hand, is probably one of the fucking whitest states in the Union. In fact, if you watch The World According to Briggs, he does like top 10s like this. And one of the things he did was the most white states in America, and Vermont was well at the top. Other ones are too, but Vermont is just, you go up there, they are very liberal. It's not that they don't want other people not to be there, but you don't see a lot of diversity up there for whatever reason. You see white people. It is what it is. So that alone kind of makes me suspect to their motivations. Anyway, that being said, I don't want to dwell on that too long, but it's a money grab, and it's only a matter of time before you see somebody fighting this in court because they got ticketed despite the fact they had a real ID. Because the way I actually went to their website for the Florida DMV and looked at the way Connecticut was presented, they have this odd link to a real ID brochure on the Connecticut DMV, but the way it's presented is so deliberately vague that if a guy from Florida pulls you over and really wants to give you a ticket, he's gonna. And he's going to do it on the premise, again, that you're all the way up in Connecticut when you get back. You just want to pay the fine and get out of there. You don't want to take the time to fight it in court. However, if I had real ID and went through that, I'm going to fucking fight the ticket. I'm going to be that asshole. I'm going to fight the ticket. Anyway. Rant number 1, I'm trying to remember. I have a bone to pick with Michael Merchant, but not in a mean way, kind of in a sarcastic way, but we'll get to that in a bit. I'm going to take a break real quick and take care of some other stuff. I'm going to take a look around and see what I can find for any sign in all this leafy, green, ferny goodness out here in this. And we're back. We're done with the politics. I just have a question for Michael Merchant. I saw his video the other day. And minus the shots of his adorable little dogs. Hopefully you still have Luna. I don't know how old Luna was when we camped out in 2016, but suddenly it just seems like you're copying my style of video making a lot. Just curious if you have. I mean that facetiously, but it's not like I copyrighted it or anything, but it's not your normal. You're normally out doing like walking the dog commentary stuff, but you seem to have changed it up. A little more musical composition than I make too, but we could do. I have the drone out here today, but also it dawns on me as I listen to the serenade of multiple woodpeckers surrounding me. I don't know how much I've actually charged the drone, so how that's going to go is a matter of conjecture. But guess we'll find out when I open up the box and see. Because the other thing too is, unlike the Spark, I have the Mini with me today, and the fail-safe, or not the fail-safe, the Achilles heel of the Mini is that the controller only has a 90-minute battery life, and if you forget to charge it and you only got one bar, you can have the best drone in the world, but if your controller's out of juice, you're out of luck. So I'll have to see how much I do or don't have in there. I haven't looked at it in 2 weeks, because last week I went fishing over the 4th, although I did have a plan to Vermont planned. I messed up my knee fishing, and the rest is history. I'm able to walk on it fairly normally, and once you're awake in the morning, but the thing is, in the morning it's still kind of stiff, so I don't want to like get all gung-ho in the morning, overdo it, and then have something happen and I pay for it, because then you're back at square one, and I've lost enough time to it. I didn't lose any work time, but I mean field time, yeah, I did. Last week I had planned on going. And I came to this area because, as you can see, it's, well, the idiot camera wasn't pointing directly up. As you can see, it's fairly level. So John, I guess I'll have to check the camera from now and again. It's muggy out, so the camera can have more personality than normal when it's muggy out or when it's cold out. Extreme temperatures seem to have interesting effects on a Removu K1 gimbal camera. The other gimbal camera I have, well, it's an alleged 2-axis gimbal, head mountable, which I was hoping would help compensate with like head turning, because when you're using a gimbal, when you're using a camera that's head mountable or iCams and you're going through the undergrowth, it is impossible not to move your head to dodge things. That is going to happen. You're not going to walk straight back and robotically through stuff and get whacked in the face by prickers and thorns and whatnot. Just that goes against human nature. Sorry, but it does. And take a moment and just listen in. Because the thing about this area in the summer, there's not really anyone out here. In the fall and the like, you have people that are hunting. The only people around right now are a family fishing about 1.5 miles away down the road. And they seemed like they were content where they were. Next week, however, when my knee is better, I am going to return to Vermont, and both the Bowtie area and Manitou are ripe for a visit, among other areas, to follow up. Although the Five Bogs has had the potential for vocalizations, and I'm going to keep a periodic eye on that as well. I also have to do some follow-up on the feasibility study of some reports out of areas not so far away from there, but they were a while ago, and I need to actually contact the witnesses and kind of I don't like to just walk into a situation blind. That's not good research. A researcher will go in, assess the victim, or well, the witness. I'm thinking too much court TV stuff, because I do watch a lot of that stuff. And kind of assess how believable and all that they are. I mean, if you're one of those that wants to like go out and do every report and believe everything, good luck, but that's not how that works. At least not from the old school point of view. And if you aren't a critical thinker when you're listening to that stuff, then you're going to believe everything and you're not going to accomplish anything. Or so is my opinion. And this isn't exactly what Mike was doing, but I'm going to give you a couple of roving shots of the area I'm in. Just also kind of scanning for the odd black bear, because even though I do have bear mace on me, the area does have multiple bears in the area. It's not hard, especially in July or June, to pop across a bear in here, so it's another thing to be conscious of. Not that I haven't run into them in Vermont too, because I have. The fun is I live in central Connecticut in the suburbs, and we now, because of the nature of things, have a neighborhood bear in the suburbs of central Connecticut, where normally we've had them up here in the northern end, but they are spreading, and we're entering into a situation kind of like New Jersey has with black bears, where they're invading the suburbs and they like the garbage cans and they get spoiled on human food. And there was a sighting last week of a bear, not only in my town, but also like 1 block over from where I live, just walking along the road. So I mean, he's around. And every time I throw away the garbage leaving for work, and at dusk when you're most likely to run into a bear, that is actually on my mind, right outside my own door. So these are the times we live in. We also, not so long ago in my town's town hall, like at town hall, city hall, they had a bear literally walking in front of City Hall and walking down the sidewalk where all my town's known for having a lot of good restaurants downtown, and where he was behind all of them where the dumpsters are. So our buddy down there has good taste in what he's going to go, when he's going for garbage cans, he's found the good ones. So it's like I can't call him a stupid bear, because he knows what he's like. He knows what he likes, and there's a lot of good stuff to pick from down there. And when I say that, like, ethnic food of your choice, it's there. Peruvian, it's there. Vietnamese, it's there. Middle Eastern, it's there. Well, Turkish anyway. You've got multiple good Italian places, both pizza level and like high-end white cloth places. And the dining experience, there's an expert level chocolatier if you're into high-end chocolates and things. And as somebody who's not really, but my girlfriend has dragged me there once or twice. He's somebody that if you look up Schuden's Chocolates, you should look him up. He is that good. Just saying. Back to basics though. We're just rambling at this point. I'm trying to figure. I'm going to have to probably gauge. I hate to say this, but a week out, I have to kind of gauge where my knee is. I don't want to, because I mean, the places where I'm going, Bowtie and Manitow, are physically demanding places. So if your knee isn't 100%, you're going in there, you are courting some level of risk. And I have told people that when they've gone in there, and people have pussed on me because they wouldn't go in. In Manitow, it's a matter of weaving through. Last time, actually, I was, if the entry point is still there, then admittedly there is a way in that's easier than places I've had to go through in the last couple times I was in there. But if you have to go in the hard way, I hope you don't have arachnophobia, because I have had to pick spiders out of my hair before. These are real things that I endure to get into places where there are no people. You have risk of running into every dangerous animal Vermont holds, be it a bobcat, cougar, bear, moose, coyote. All their tracks and all their shit piles are there. Don't kid yourself. If you go into Bowtie, you're running into the same thing. When I camped near there with the merchants, we didn't go all the way in, but they were maintaining that they did have a presence of a Bigfoot in the area. You certainly have the cover for it. And once you get beyond the one fire ring primitive campsite that's at the edge of that, you are into hard wilderness, and you don't run into people out there. So, you know, it's a simply believable environment to go into. Unfortunately, I'm trying to think of like actual things that have happened during the week that are Bigfoot related, and the tendency to have like a new conference every week is there. I think it is an easy thing to say, and people may disagree with me if they want to go to these things. I've made it very clear in the past I'm not really a convention guy. There's like a new one every week, and I would say that if it's a cottage industry, the market has been well oversaturated by people that are, everyone does it. It's a social climbing tool for newer groups. I hold it with some undisguised disdain, I'm not going to lie. Just because it's a parasitic thing, and or maybe symbiotic is the better word, and I'll explain this to you. Every new conference that comes out, you see speaker lists: Jeff Meldrum, Cliff Barackman, they're there. And if they're making a living doing this, okay, but then you have people that you've never heard of from these little newbie groups throwing up their guys too, and using it as a tool to like kind of create the facade that they're on par with Meldrum and Barackman, who are people who, unlike Expedition Bigfoot, which is acting, no offense to the actors, but you know damn well that's what you're doing. I'm not going to go down a big rabbit. There's enough haters on that. I don't delve into that if I don't need to. But what Meldrum is a guy who is an actual science. Aside from the fact he's kind of sold out to the convention circuit, he is actually a real science-doing scientist guy. He has scientific credentials. And as much as I say he's not really needing the podium that he has, because he still hasn't found the body like anyone else, but he is like a guy with scientific credentials. I will give credit where it's due. Barackman has been out in the field in many places, including Connecticut, and he did go to a fair, because I can gauge local environment, where he went does have a relative history of a couple of sightings. and he did run into a bear to serve notice that, yes, Connecticut is not all insurance companies and freaking suburbs. If you look at the map, that's actually a slender S through the middle of the state, and the rest of it is actually very forested. Again, here you go. Are you in the suburbs? Do you see any insurance salesmen lurking out here? No, you don't. Just making a point. And again, nature's come knocking on the door because the bear that was seen on Camp Street last week, or also a small state, we're not far from an airport, but is what it is. You know, but you know, it's a symbiotic thing because you get these other people you've never heard of, and there are, and I'm going to make a differentiation between some noobs and some non-noobs. A year ago, I would have considered Emily Fleur to be a noob, but unlike a lot of people, I'm going to give her credit because if you follow what she does, she gets out there. She gets out there a lot. She does the work. Unlike some people who show up in Facebook groups and demand to be spoon-fed, they're going to call, well, what about peer review? My reaction to that is if you are a clear and obvious newbie, what are your credentials to do peer review? Are you going to blunder into an area that may have an active situation going on and destroy the flow of it and drive the source of potential data out of the area so that something you have to go and relocate it again? If you're listening to my video and I have gotten into it with you before, you know exactly who you are and you know I'm right. Unlike that, Emily's an example of someone who gets out there and does her own work. She's learning as she goes, but she's somebody I wouldn't mind giving a helping hand or lending some insight to if she ever approached for it, because she is somebody doing the work. The people that are alleging peer review and they just pop up like they're Joe Hiker and they're new to the subject, you don't have the credentials yet. And sorry, not sorry. There are subjects I have interest in, but I'm not an expert in. I don't claim to have any. I don't go out and charge and demand somebody show me how to do it. I'll figure it out myself. That's how you learn. And if there are those out there that I call entitled newbies that don't freaking agree with me, well, that's your choice, but you're still wrong. Now, rather than go into full-on rant and ramble any more than I have, I am going to take yet another break and kind of listen in. And we'll be back in a bit. Okay, we're back. This is going to probably be our wrap-up. Today was a day out in the woods just to kind of test my knees' level of flexibility in uneven terrain. It's doing all right. So I encourage people to remain critical thinkers, to not buy into the woo wholeheartedly and the like. Skeptics are not the enemy. Neither are the woo, although they do need to bring something to the table if they want us to believe their so-called evidence. Other than that, as a parting thought, I am going to say like, subscribe, leave comments or suggestions in the area YouTube gives you to do that, and we will... I was going to do a rant on social media and its collapse with Reddit and Twitter related things, but we'll do that another day. It doesn't need to be today. So we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye.